Hello, and thanks for watching Focus, a show that focuses on community, unity, and service, featuring local nonprofits and community heroes. I'm Chris Giard. May is National Foster Care Month, and our next featured nonprofit is Fostering the Community, an organization based out of Wethersfield influencing and driving positive change in the Connecticut foster care system. My guest is Jennifer Fell, the president of Fostering the Community. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. I'm happy to be here.
Well, let's start off by having you tell us a little bit of background information on Fostering the Community and how you got involved.
Sure, absolutely. So Fostering the Community really started from a group of foster parents. We actually went through our training together. So my other board members, Julie Chamberlain and Karen Quantek, we were training together to get licensed, and we'd stayed in touch because you really need that support when you're going through foster care. And we'd started to come across different things where we said, hey, this is a great structure in Connecticut, but maybe the impact's not reaching the children. And so we spent a lot of time discussing it, and we were able to get connected with Representative Gary Wood from our state legislature, and we talked about, hey, there are some really specific actions we can take to make a difference in foster care. And so Carrie was able to sit down with us, get us audience with DCF. And as we started to work, we said, hey, we need to formalize. And that was really last spring, summer. And we decided to create the organization Fostering the Community to help move this program forward.
You spoke about Representative Wood there. I recently watched, and you were a guest panelist on a conversation on the state of foster care in Connecticut. And it was great to see all the different insights and personal experiences from those so close to the topic. What are some of the changes you would like to see in current legislation, policy, and practice on the state level?
Sure. So one of our very first things that really brought us together to work was looking at the education policy and some of the stipends for children in care. Most of them, if they have been in care in the state of Connecticut, do have access to funding for secondary education. And that's fantastic. But we know that most kids that have been, just as an example, for every year that a child or every placement that a child is moved while they're in foster care, that sets them back really about a year educationally and a year emotionally. And not that they can't catch up, they certainly can. But if they've been moved around or have had a significant amount of disruption, they are not going to graduate high school with that readiness to jump right in college, right? Or they might need an extra year in school. And so we'd like to see some of that legislation reflective of giving them a little more lenience and time when they're able to go into school. One of the other things we're really looking for is to increase the time to permanency, so that kids aren't staying stuck in the system for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That becomes a significant part of their identity and also a trauma. And one of the other pieces behind that is that we're really looking to decrease the turnover of the number of social workers involved in the care. We really want kids to have that consistent person that owns their story, helps work their case, and builds those strong relationships with biological families, foster families, and the support they need. So those are some of the big ones we're really focusing on.
I also know that you are a champion for DCF's the Quality Parenting Initiative. Can you talk a little bit about that initiative?
Absolutely. So the Quality Parenting Initiative, we call it QPI. It's a national initiative based out of Los Angeles, actually, and they work state by state and helping each department to revamp how they look at foster care. So they really want to deliver excellent parenting throughout a child's time in care, and to really focus on building relationships and a new brand. Because we're in the business of caring for children and families when you're in foster care, right? And so how do we make sure that those relationships and connections are prioritized? So as a champion foster parent, so I represent Fostering the Community, but I also represent foster parents and talk about what some of the challenges are, for instance, for me to provide excellent parenting to my children. We meet extensively. And we have a lot of support from DCF, from community partners, working with the caseworkers to help really understand how do we work best to help make the experience for the child the priority.
What kind of community support is needed for creating safe home environments for children that are in the foster care system?
So that is an excellent question. So that's one of one of the things that we really feel is important is not only once kids are in foster care, but prior to coming into care. We need activated community support. So Deputy Commissioner Michael Williams from DCF tells this story. He talks about being in, I believe, Louisiana before they had foster care. And he said, we had communities that came together and we knew people were struggling. And we'd say, hey, let me help you with your kids while you get your life together. And then we'll help you get it back together. And so I keep that mental picture in mind. And I think what we need is activated communities who are aware of this foster care, situation in Connecticut. We have 4,000 children in care that are aware that most kids come into care because of neglect, primarily, and where there maybe the needs aren't met, and maybe it's some of their biological families just need additional support, encouragement, resources. And so, what I would suggest for the community is look around you, reach out to your neighbors, make sure you're supporting the food pantries. If you can't be a foster parent, be a good neighbor and somebody that's looking out for where people are struggling and maybe help support them from even getting engaged with the system. Makes sense.
Well, I know that you're a new nonprofit since last summer, it sounds like. And obviously we went through COVID-19. So what
We
are some of the
certainly did.
challenges? We're still going through it technically, but
Yeah.
what are some of the challenges that you faced and some of the things you had to do to pivot? I mean, you didn't really have to pivot, but you started ground zero with
Yes.
with a pandemic. How'd that work out?
Yeah. Well, so I think, yeah. So in theory, it doesn't seem like the wisest move we've ever done, but it ended up being the right time. I was home and it actually took the stress off of being out there and connecting with people face to face because we had the time to really build our groundwork, and the relationships really ended up happening through Zoom, through being part of different committees and things like that. So it actually in this phase has not affected us that much. One of the things it did really do is like normalize the Zoom conversation, right? So normalize these video chats where I think previously it was sort of like, ugh, why do I have to get on a video chat? Well, Monday afternoon, no, it was Tuesday, I was able to sit in a call with the UK and talk to foster parents in the UK. And it wasn't like anything different, it was just like we talked to everybody else. And so in some ways, it's really spread your network very, very wide and everybody is a lot more accessible that way, which has been great.
Do you envision it staying this way? Do you envision maybe at some point when it is safe to have a larger gathering in person and to have that one-on-one connection other than?
Of course. And I think particularly, again, we're talking about the business of families and children and relationships. You need that one-on-one. So one of the things that we do, and I think we may talk about it a little bit later, is recruit foster parents, right? Sometimes you need to sit down with a cup of coffee and talk to that person one-to-one. I think we'll never be able to replace that human relationships. Piece, but also being able to get out into the community and be at farmers markets and things like that and spread the word about what's going on in our communities and how we can help.
So, fundraising for most nonprofits, they have those larger gatherings. Is there a way that people that are watching this or seeing or hearing about you for the first time, how they could get involved, how they could fundraise for you, make a donation, or just volunteer their services other than, becoming a foster parent or donating to like a local food bank, like you said, just being a good neighbor?
Yeah. So of course we fully run on donations at this point. And so just going through our website, which is fosteringthecommunity.org, you can always make a donation there. That would go to help with some really specific projects, and some overhead things that we're putting into place. So that's always fantastic. We love volunteers. Right now, we have quite a few interns that are really helping getting our web presence and our social media up and running. Um, Volunteers to, help us drop things off in the community, people that are willing to learn and just spread the word. honestly, that is one of the most powerful things you can do is listen, get educated, and then be an ambassador who can share to other people about what's going on in ways that they can connect.
Um, know you talked about your personal experience of being a foster parent. I know you have a You Belong project. I know
Yes.
you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I love it. This is just really close to me. So I did not. I was not a parent prior to becoming a foster parent. So I was always really focused on my career, and so it was very cumbersome, kind of coming into this space where I'm welcoming a small person into my home and trying to convince them that they can trust me as a leader, as their not as a leader, as a parent. Um, and so when I first met with my daughter, who I foster, she had just turned 4. And so we spent a little bit of time together before she moved in with me. And we spent this day, and I thought to myself, how am I going to make sure she feels comfortable
Yeah.
here? That she feels that this is her room. And so what we did is I got some wooden letters from like Michael's craft store, and we painted them together. And so when she came back to move in, the letters we painted together for her name, we put above her bed, and she
Mhm.
knew this is my space. I belong here. I helped to make this. This isn't a hotel. This isn't a temporary stop, but this is a place where I belong.
Yeah.
Um, so anyhow, yeah, it's just something that was really special to us. Um, and so when we started fostering the community, we wanted every child to have that experience, right? And so one of the things that we're doing is we're fundraising for kids so that when children get placed into long-term placements, and that's a place where they know they're going to be there for a while, we can send that kit with their name and some paintbrushes and sort of a welcome, and they can sit down with their foster family and create that, and again have that feeling where they belong and they know that they have a place where they're, and maybe it's not forever, maybe it's, hopefully it's till they can reunify with their biological family, but they belong, they're
Yeah.
not just floating. So and that's a cause that's very, very near and dear to my heart, and it's something that I feel it makes a big impact on the children.
What would you say are the most common misconception of foster care parents, and then the children that are in the foster care system?
Sure. I mean, I think there's a litany of misconceptions out there. Obviously, I think the ones that are always out there is like foster parents just do it for the money and things like that, right? Um, the fact of the matter is, you have to lead with your heart when you're coming into the foster care system. You have to be able to, but you want this child to come into your house and love you and participate like they're a member of your family, and you have to open your heart to let them do that. Um, so that's one of those things. You can't be driven by anything else other than love if you want to do that successfully. I think that's really important. I think another misconception, and this is sort of in between foster families and foster children, are that the biological parents are bad. They're
Mm.
not. They're not. I have great relationships with some of my children's biological families. They're part of their story, and it takes all of us to make this successful. And when it comes to the children, gosh, I think the easiest, one of my friends who grew up in care, and he really struggles with this, is that people sometimes think they're bad children or they're acting out because and that's just not the case. They have been through a lot of trauma, um, even in the best situations, to be removed from your home, and they have a certain toolbox that helps them get their needs met. They might be yelling and screaming, it might be. But biological children have those same tools, right? These children have a certain toolbox. They may need to be taught some other tools for how to cope. Um, they may have some other challenges, but by no means are they bad children. They're just not. Children aren't wired to be manipulative. They're wired to have their needs met. And that's what foster parents really, that's their first responsibility.
I typically, end our conversation and interviews with a question. Now more than ever, what are you thankful for? We've been through a lot this last year, and I know you guys are a young organization, but you probably have a lot to be thankful for already.
We certainly do. I was thinking about that today, and I thought now more than ever, I'm thankful for the spirit of people to step in and lift each other up.
Mhm.
We, as a young organization, every door we've knocked on has opened. Every person we've talked to has said, yes, this is something important. Yes, I'm willing to look outside myself and see how I can help you. And I just think that tremendous spirit of people to come together has really shown through the pandemic, but also through this experience. And I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Well, Jennifer Fell is the president of Fostering the Community. Thank you so much for your time today and really helping us get a better understanding in your personal experiences. They're much appreciated.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris.